We're continuing with Ursula K. Le Guin's No Spare Time. The Diminished Thing, page 12, May 2013. Not wanting to know much about getting old, I don't mean older, I mean old, late 70s, 80s, beyond, is probably a human survival characteristic. What's the use of knowing anything about it ahead of time? You'll find out enough when you get there. One of the things people often find when they get there is that younger people don't want to hear about it. So honest conversation concerning geezerhood takes place mostly among the geezers. And when the younger people tell the old people what old age is, the geezers may not agree but seldom argue. I want to argue, just a little. Robert Frost's Ovenbird asked the operative question, what to make of a diminishing thing. Americans believe strongly in positive thinking. Positive thinking is great. It works best when based on realistic assessment of and acceptance of an actual situation. Positive thinking founded on denial may not be so great. Everybody who gets old has to assess their ever-changing but seldom improving situation and make of it what they can. I think most old people accept the fact that they're old. I've never heard anybody over 80 say, I'm not old, and they make the best of it. As the saying goes, consider the alternative. A lot of younger people, seeing the reality of old age as entirely negative, see acceptance of age as negative. Wanting to deal with old people in a positive spirit, they're led to deny old people their reality. With all good intentions, people say to me, oh, you're not old. Yes, I've definitely done that, but I tend to have older people who I genuinely don't feel like are old, but they are on paper. Okay. With all good intentions, people say to me, oh, you're not old, and the Pope isn't Catholic. You're only as old as you think you are. Now, you don't honestly think having lived 83 years is a matter of opinion. My uncle's 90 and he walks 8 miles a day. Lucky Unc. I hope he never meets that old bully Arthur Ridis or his mean wife Sciatica. Or Arthur Ridis. Okay. Slow on that one. My grandmother lives all by herself and she's still driving her car at 99. Well, hey, for Granny, she's got good genes. She's a great example, but not one of most people are able to imitate. Old age isn't a state of mind, it's an existential situation. Would you say to a paralyzed person from the waist down, oh, you aren't a cripple, you're only as paralyzed as you think you are. My cousin broke her back once, but she got right over it, and now she's in training for the marathon. Encouragement by denial, however well-meaning, backfires. Fear is seldom wise and never kind. Who is it you're cheering up anyhow? Is it really the geezer? To tell me my age doesn't exist to me, is to tell me that I don't exist. Erase my age, you erase my life. Me. Of course, that's what a lot of really young people inevitably do. Kids who haven't lived with geezers don't know what they are. So it is that old men come to learn the invisibility women learned 20 or 30 years earlier. The kids on the street don't see you. If they see you, it's often with the indifference, distrust, or animosity animals feel for animals of a different species. Animals have instinctive codes of etiquette for avoiding or diffusing this mindless fear and hostility. Dogs ceremonially smell each other's anuses. Cats ceremoniously yowl on the territorial borderline. Human societies provide us with various more elaborate devices. One of the most effective is respect. You don't like the stranger, but your carefully respectful behavior to him elicits the same from him, thus avoiding the sterile expense of time and blood on aggression and defense. In less charge-oriented societies than ours, a great part of the culture's useful information, including the rules of behavior, is taught by elders to the young. One of those rules is, unsurprisingly, a tradition of age for respect, or respect for age. Our increasingly unstable, future-oriented, technology-driven society, the young are often the ones who show the way, who teach the elders what to do. So who respects whom for what? The geezers are damned if they're going to kowtow to the twerps, and vice versa. There's no social pressure behind it. Respectful behavior becomes a decision and an individual choice. Americans, even when they play pious lip service to Judeo-Christian values or rules of moral behavior, tend to regard moral behavior as a personal decision above the rules and often above laws. This is morally problematic when personal decision is confused with personal opinion. A decision worthy of the name is based on observation, factual, informational, intellectual, and ethical judgment. Opinion, that darling of the press, the politician, and the poll, may be based on no information at all. At worst, unchecked either by judgment or moral tradition, personal opinion may reflect nothing but ignorance, jealousy, and fear. So if I decide my opinion is that living a long time means getting ugly, weak, useless, and in the way, I waste no respect on old people. Just as if my opinion is that all young people are scary, insolent, unreliable, and unteachable, I waste no respect on them. Respect has often been over-enforced and almost universally misplaced. The poor must respect the rich. All women must respect all men, etc. But when applied in moderation and with judgment, the social requirement of respectful behavior to others by repressing aggression and requiring self-control makes room for understanding. It creates a space where appreciation and affection can grow. Opinion all too often leaves no room for anything but itself. People whose society don't teach them respect for childhood are lucky if they learn to understand or value or even like their own children. Children who aren't taught respect for old age are likely to fear it, and to discover understanding and affection for old people only by luck or by chance. I think the tradition of respecting age in itself has some justification. Just coping with daily life, doing stuff that was always so easy you didn't notice it gets harder in old age, till it may take real courage to do it at all. Old age generally involves pain and danger and in the inevitability of death. Acceptance of that takes courage. Courage deserves respect. So much for respect. Back to the diminished thing. Childhood is when you keep gaining. Old age is when you keep losing. The golden years and the PR people keep gloating at us about gloating us about are golden because that's the color of the light at sunset. Of course, diminishment isn't all there is to aging. Far from it. Life out of the rat race, but still in the comfort zone, can give you the chance to be in the moment and bring real peace of mind. If memory remains sound and the thinking mind retains its vigor, an old intelligence may have extraordinary breadth and depth of understanding. It's had more time to gather knowledge and more practice in comparison and judgment. No matter if the knowledge is intellectual or practical or emotional, if it concerns alpine ecosystems or the Buddha nature or how to reassure a frightened child. When you meet an old person with that kind of knowledge, if you have a sense of a bean sprout, you know you're in rare and irreproducible presence. A rare and irreproducible presence. Same goes for old people who keep their skill at any craft or art they've worked at for those years. Practice does make perfect. They know how. They know it all, and beauty flows effortlessly from what they do. But all such existential enlargements brought by living long are under threat from the lessening of strength and stamina. However well compensated for by intelligent coping mechanisms, small or large breakdowns in one bit of the body or another begin to restrict activity while the memory is dealing with overlapping slippage. Existence in old age is progressively diminished by each of these losses and restrictions. It's no use saying so because it is so. It's no use making a fuss about it or being afraid of it either because nobody can change it. Yes, I know we are, at the moment, in America, living longer. 90 is the new 70, etc. That's generally taken to be a good thing. How good? In what respects? I recommend studying the ovenbird's question long and seriously. There are many answers to it. A lot can be made of a diminishing thing if you work at it. A lot of people, young and old, are working at it. All I'm asking people who are yet really old is to think about the Ovenbird's question 2 and try not to diminish old age itself. Let age be age. Let your old relative or old friend be who they are. Denial serves nothing. No one, no purpose. Please understand I'm speaking for myself, for my own crabby old age. I may get told off for it by hordes of enraged octogenarians who like being told that they're spry and feisty. I don't begrudge the fairy tale to those who want to believe it. And if I live longer than I think I want to, maybe I'll even come to want to hear it. You're not old. Nobody's old. We're all living happily ever after. Catching up, haha. October 2014. It's been 2 months since I blogged. Considering that I'm on the eve of my 85th birthday and that anyone over 75 who isn't continuously and conspicuously active is liable to be considered dead, I thought I should make some signs of life, wave from the grave, as it were. Hello out there. How are things in the land of the youth? Here in the land of the age, they are rather weird. The weirdness includes being called a liar by Hugh Woolley, the famous self-publisher of How, because I was rude to Amazon. Oh, it's hyphenated. Amazon.com, the famous philanthropic organization dedicated to supporting publishers, encouraging writers, and greasing the skids of the American dream. Various other weirdnesses have arisen in my life as a writer, some quite enjoyable, but the important and dominant weirdness of life this autumn consists not of having a car, a condition that a lot of people is the American nightmare. That to a lot of people is the American nightmare. We do have our nice Subaru, but we can't drive it. I never could. I learned to drive in 1947, but I didn't get a license, for which I and all who know me are grateful. I'm one of those pedestrians who start to cross the street, scuttle back to the curb for no reason, and then suddenly leap out in front of your car as you get into the intersection. I am the cause of several near accidents and a great deal of terrible swearing. It's awful to think what I might have done armed with an automobile. In any case, I don't drive. And since August, sciatic pain from the stenosis keeps Charles from driving and from walking much at all. I can walk. I have the same thing he does, fortunately much less severely. But after a few blocks, I go lame on the left hind. We're 10 steep blocks from the co-op market, so we've lost the liberty our legs or the car gave us to pop out and get what we need when we need it. It's a wonderful freedom, much missed. I've had to go back to the routine of my childhood, when we did the shopping once a week. No running down to see what looks fresh and good from the dinner for dinner, or to pick up a quart of milk. Everything has to be planned ahead and written down. If you don't get the cat litter on Tuesday, well, you don't have any cat litter till next Tuesday, and the cat may have some questions for you. There's no hardship about shopping this way. In fact, I look forward to it. Since my friend Mo takes me and is a really good intense shopper who notices bargains and things. But still it's tiresome always having to think about it instead of just doing it. Just do it. The motto for those who run 20 miles every morning in a swoosh-covered shoes. The mantra of undelayed gratification. Yeah, well, Charles and I better do with the si se puede, or with the Gaelic philosophy, on ye arrive. As for doctor's appointments, one of the finest paradoxes of senility, I hope I'm saying that right, is that the oftener you have to go to the doctor, the harder it gets to get there. And haircuts. Now I know the world looks to those little dogs with the bangs over their eyes. It would be nice if I could read this morning. Now I know how the world looks to those little dogs with the bangs all over their eyes. It looks hairy. All in all, the main effect of being inordinately old and careless is that there's even less time to do things other than what has to be done than there was before. Keeping up with answering letters and writing blog posts and getting the books in the basement organized, and a whole slew of things like that get put on the back burner, which may or may not be functioning, as we've had the stove since 1960. But you know, they don't make stoves like that anymore. The Annals of Pard. Choosing a cat, January 2012. I've never chosen a cat before. I have been chosen by the cat, or by people who offered us a cat. A kitten was weeping up in a tree on Euclid Avenue and needed to be rescued, and grew up into a 14-pound gray tiger, Tom, who populated our neighborhood in Berkeley for blocks around with gray tiger kittens. Or pretty Miss Golden, Tabby, probably after an affair with her handsome golden brother, presented us with several golden kittens, and we kept Laurel and Hardy. Or when Willie died, we asked Mr. Dragon to let us know if anybody left a kitten at the veterinary door the way that people do, and she said it wasn't likely because it was long past kitten season. But the next morning there was a 6-month-old in a tuxedo on her doorstep. She called us up, and so Zorro came home with us for 13 years. After Zorro died last spring, there had to be the emptiness. Finally, it began to be time that the house had a soul again. Some Frenchman said that the cat is the soul of a house, and we agree. But no cat had chosen us or been offered to us, or appeared weeping in a tree. So I asked my daughter if she'd come to the Humane Society with me and help me choose a cat. A middle-aged, sedate, homebody cat suitable for owners in their 80s, male for no reason. But the cats I have loved most dearly were males, black, I hoped, as I like black cats, and had read that they are the least popular choice for adoption. But I wasn't particular about the details. I was nervous about going. I dreaded it, in fact. How can you choose a cat? And what about the ones I couldn't choose? The Humane Society's Portland office is an amazing place. It's immense, and I saw only the lobby and the cat wing, rooms and rooms and rooms of cats. There's always somebody, staff and volunteers, at hand if you want them. Everybody is organized with such simple efficiency that it seems easygoing and friendly, low stress. When you are one of the huge members of the people coming daily to bring in or adopt animals, when you see endless incoming and outgoing animals and glimpse the tremendous endless work involved in receiving and treating and keeping them, the achievement of that easygoing atmosphere seems almost incredible and totally admirable. The human-animal interface is a very troubled one these days, and in one sense the Humane Society shows that trouble at its most accurate. Yet in everything I saw there, I also saw the best of what human beings can do when they put their heart and mind to it. Well, so we found our way into the cat wing and looked about a bit. And it turned out that at that moment, there were very few middle-aged cats for adoption. The ones that were there mostly came from one place, which I'd read about recently in the newspaper. A woman with 90 cats who was sure she loved them all and was looking after them. And they were all fine, and you know the story, a sad one. The Humane Society had taken about 60 of them. The nice aide whom we began to follow around told us that they weren't in as bad shape as most animals in those situations, and that they were fairly well socialized. But they weren't in very good shape either, and would need special care for quite a while to come. That sounded a bit beyond me. Aside from them, most of the cats were kittens. Kittening was very late this year, she said, just like tomatoing, I thought. In one room of 6 or 8 cats, forgive me, Carolyn noticed an agitated nylon play tube which seemed to contain at least 2 active animals, one black, one white. Eventually, one small cat emerged, very black and white, and pleased with himself. Our guide told us he was older than most of them, a year old. so we asked to see him. We went to the interview room, and she came in with the little fellow in the tuxedo. He seemed very small for a year old. 7 pounds, she said. His tail stood straight up in the air, and he purred most amazingly, and talked a good deal in a rather high voice, and often fell over in a playful appeasement position. He was clearly and naturally anxious. He clung a little to the aide till she left us alone with him. He wasn't really shy, didn't mind being picked up, and handled and petted, though he wouldn't settle on a lap. His eyes were bright, his coat sleek and soft. The black tail stood straight up, and the black spot on his left hind leg was terminally cute. The aide came back, and I said, "Okay." She and my daughter were both a little surprised. Maybe I was too. "You don't want to look at any of the others?" she said. No, I didn't. Send him back, look at the other cats, make a choice, one of them, maybe, and not him? I couldn't. Fate or the Lord of the Animals or whatever had presented me with a cat again. Okay. His previous owner had conscientiously filled out the Humane Society questionnaire. Her questions were useful and heartbreaking. Reading some of the lines, I learned that he lived his first year with his mother and one sibling in a household where there were children under 3, children from 3 to 9, and children from 9 through 14, but no men. The reason why all 3 cats were given up for adoption was stark: could not afford to keep. He had been only 4 days at the Humane Society. They had neutered him right away, and he was recovering fast. He was in excellent health, had been well fed, well treated, and a sociable, friendly, playful, cheerful little pet. I do not like to think of the tears in that family. He has been with us a month today. As his first owner warned, he's somewhat shy of men, but not very, and afraid of children, though sensibly watchful. We lived 13 years with shy, wary Zorro, who feared many things, including my daughter Caroline, because once she stayed in our house with 2 big, unruly dogs, and for 10 years he never forgave her. But this fellow is not timid. In fact, he is perhaps too fearless. He grew up as an inside-outside cat, hence he won't go outside till the weather gets warm, but then he must. I can only hope he knows what to be afraid of out there. Like many young cats, he goes wild as buck once or twice a day, flying about the room about 3 feet off the ground, knocking things off and over, getting into all kinds of trouble. Shouts of disapproval are ineffective, little swats on the butt are slightly effective, and he understands and remembers what "no" and a preventing hand in front of his nose means. And remembers what "no" and a preventing hand in front of his nose means. I found to my distress that sometimes a threateningly raised hand will cause him to cringe and crouch like a beaten dog. I don't know what that comes from, but I can't stand it. So shout and swat "no" is all I can do. Vonda sent me a whole bucket full of super balls, wonderful for solo soccer games and working off excess energy. He's good at all varieties of string game. When he wins string on a stick, he walks off with the string and the stick and likes to carry on the whole thing downstairs. Clatter, rattle, bump. He's quite good at paws beneath the door, but hasn't yet got to the point of paws between the banisters, because there's no banisters in the house he grew up in. That was clear the first few days, when he tried to navigate our stairs, a landform entirely new to him. The learning process was extremely funny and dangerous to us ancients, who are unsteady enough on stairs without a confused cat suddenly appearing belly up on the next stair down, or darting madly madly crossways right in front of your foot. But he mastered all that, and now races up and down far ahead of us, barely touching the stairs at all, as to the manner born. They warned us at the Humane Society that there was a feline cold going around, probably from the rescued cats, and he probably had it. There's nothing they can do about it any more than a kindergartner can. So he brought it home and was very snuffy and was a very snuffy little body for 2 weeks. Not a totally bad start since he wanted to cuddle and sleep a lot. We could get to know one another quietly. I didn't worry much about him because he had no fever and never for a moment lost his appetite. He had to sort of breathe while he ate, but he ate and ate. Kibbles. Oh, kibbles. Oh, joy. Oh, gourmet delight. Oh, tuna and sushi and chicken liver and caviar all in one. I guess kibbles is all he ever had to eat. So kibbles is food, and he loves food. He just loves it. He certainly won't bother us with his finicky, demanding tastes. But it may take strong willpower, ours, to prevent globularity in this cat. We will try. He is pretty, but his only unusual beauty is his eyes, and you have to look closely to realize it. Right around the large dark pupils, there's green, and around that reddish yellow. I had seen that magical change in a semi-precious stone. He has the eyes of a oh dear. Chrysoberyl. I'm probably saying it wrong. Wikipedia tells us that a chrysoberyl or alexandrite is a trichrotic gem. It shows emerald green or orange yellow depending on the angle of the light. While I had the cold, while he had the cold and we were lying around together, I tried out names. Alexander was too imperial. Chrysoberyl, far too majestic. Pico was one of them that seemed to fit him, or Paco. But the one he kept looking around at when I said it was pard. It started out as Gattopardo, the leopard, Lampedusa's Prince Fabrizio. That was too long for anybody his size and got cut down to Pardo and then turned into Pardo as in partner. Hey, little pard, I hope you choose to stay around a while. So that is where I'm going to stop, but I am going to look up that word because that's a new word to me. So you can stick around or skip to the next chapter. Let's find it. Chrysoberyl. Probably chrysoberyl. All right, pronunciation. Chrysoberyl. And it is a very pretty color. It's kind of like a yellowish, greenish, yellowish tone. Okay. Well, if I've said anything else wrong, please do let me know so that I can correct that and say it correctly moving forward. We'll pick that up again later.